was the year 1904. The coastal town of Key West, Florida, carried an eerie silence every evening. The crashing waves and the rustling of old pine trees created an atmosphere as if a heavy shadow was draped over the town. In the middle of that town stood a grand white mansion, home of the Otto family, wealthy, influential, and deeply passionate about art. Living in that mansion was a small boy named Robert Eugene Otto, lovingly called Gene. Gene was sensitive and imaginative. He would spend hours painting, talking to walls, and often wished for a true friend, someone who would never leave him. One day his wish was granted, but not in the way anyone could have imagined. He was given a gift, a dollar, but not an ordinary doll. The doll was the size of a real child. It wore a sailor suit identical to Gene's own. Its face was stitched with a strange, unsettling smile, as if another face was hiding beneath the fabric. And the eyes, two dark button eyes that seemed to pierce straight into whoever dared to look at them. The doll held a small stuffed dog in its hand. Without hesitation, Gene said, "His name will be Robert." His parents chuckled at the boy's attachment, but what started as laughter would soon twist into screams. That night, Gene insisted that Robert sleep in his bed. His parents agreed, but at midnight, whispers echoed through the mansion. Gene's mother awoke to what sounded like two voices from Gene's room. One was clearly her son's. The other was deeper, hollow, inhuman. When she opened the door, she found Gene and Robert sitting together. Gene said innocently, "I was just talking to Robert." His mother dismissed it as imagination, but it was only the beginning. Candle objects moving on their own strange incidents soon filled the house. Toys scattered across the floor by themselves. Doors creaked open and slammed shut. Footsteps circled Gene's bed at night, though the room was locked. Whenever his parents asked, Gene always said the same chilling words, "Robert did it." At first, his parents thought it was a childish excuse, but as the incidents escalated, those words began to feel like the truth. The servants' fear. The Otto household had several servants. One day, a maid whispered to Mrs. Otto, "Madam, that doll isn't right. Its eyes, they follow me. I swear I've seen it move." Mrs. Otto scolded her for nonsense, but days later the maid quit abruptly. Her final words as she left the mansion were, "That child is not safe." The curse rumors spread throughout Key West. Some whispered that the doll was a voodoo curse. Legend said a mistreated servant, skilled in dark arts, crafted the doll and gifted it to Gene as revenge. If true, Gene hadn't received a friend. He had inherited a curse. Terror grows. As Gene grew, so did Robert's sinister presence. Guests reported seeing the doll move along the staircase. Neighbors claimed someone was staring from Gene's window, but only Robert sat there. One servant swore she saw the doll leave Gene's room and slowly walk down the hallway. The Otto parents were terrified, yet they couldn't take Robert away. Whenever Robert was removed, Gene screamed, cried, and sometimes fainted. It was as if the boy's life force was chained to the doll. Marriage and a new victim. Years passed, Gene became an artist and eventually a husband. His wife Anne was cheerful, but her happiness quickly turned to dread after meeting Robert. "Gene," she pleaded, "this isn't a toy. It's controlling you." But Gene would only laugh. "Robert is my friend. You don't understand him." Anne often woke at night to footsteps pacing their bedroom. Doors creaked open. Shadows loomed by the bed. One night she saw it clearly. Robert climbed down from his chair and stood in the corner of the room, staring. Anne screamed, but Gene whispered, pale and defeated, "He does what he wants. I can't stop him." In 1974, Gene Otto died. Anne locked Robert in the attic, determined never to see him again. But the curse didn't die with Gene. Years later, the house was sold to a new family. Their young daughter discovered Robert and began to play with him. But soon the nightmare returned. The girl cried, "Mommy, the doll wants to kill me." Objects flew around her room at night. Scratches appeared on her skin. The terrified family finally removed Robert from the house. He was donated to the East Martello Museum. Prison of glass. Today, Robert sits inside a glass case at the museum. But his evil hasn't faded. Visitors claim his eyes follow them, Some hear laughter from inside the case, and those who take photos without asking for Robert's permission suffer accidents, misfortunes, even death. That's why the museum has something unusual in Robert's room. Hundreds of letters. Letters from people begging Robert for forgiveness. Letters from those who mocked him and then paid the price. The end. Truth or delusion? To this day, Robert sits silently, in his sailor suit, stuffed dog in hand, button eyes fixed forward. Some dismiss it all as legend, but everyone who stood before Robert agrees on one thing. The doll's presence is not normal. Is he truly cursed by voodoo, or is it mass hysteria feeding his legend? Perhaps the truth will never be known, but if you ever visit Florida and come face to face with Robert the doll, remember this: ask his permission before taking a photo, because if you don't, he might just make you part of his next story. In the early 1920s, in a small village in northern Japan, Hokkaido, there lived a humble but happy family. The youngest member of the family was a little girl named Okiku, a child so full of life that her laughter filled the entire household with joy. One day, her older brother went on a trip to Tokyo. While wandering through the crowded streets, he entered a toy shop. There, something caught his eye. A doll unlike any other. Its pale, waxy face seemed almost human. The black glass eyes followed him with an unsettling intensity, and it wore a bright red kimono. There was something eerily captivating about it. Without a second thought, he bought the doll and brought it back home as a gift for his little sister. The moment Okiku laid her eyes on it, her face lit up. She clutched the doll tightly, her eyes shining with tears of joy. She named the doll after herself, Okiku. From that day on, she treated it not as a toy but as her closest friend. She would sit it beside her at meals, whisper secrets to it, and every night she slept with it by her side. For her, the doll wasn't just fabric and porcelain, it was alive. But happiness never lasts forever. One harsh winter night, little Okiku fell sick. A high fever struck, followed by severe coughing fits. The family tried everything they could, but doctors were far away and medicines didn't help. Days later, at just 3 years old, Okiku died in her bed. The house that was once filled with laughter became a home of sorrow, and soon, something far darker began to take its place. In memory of their beloved daughter, the grieving parents placed the doll in the living room. They prayed before it daily, as if it carried their daughter's soul. But then, strange things began happening. The first thing they noticed was the doll's hair. When her brother had first bought it, the hair was short, cut to the doll's ears. But now it was growing, slowly, steadily. It reached down to its shoulders. At first, they thought it was just their imagination. But week after week, the hair grew longer and longer. One day, the father cut it with scissors. Yet within weeks, it grew back again, just like human hair. And it didn't stop there. The doll's face seemed to shift. The once closed lips now appeared slightly parted, as if whispering something. Its eyes glistened with moisture, like tears being held back. But the most chilling thing of all, at night they heard it. A soft, playful giggle echoing in the dark, the same laugh their daughter once had. With each passing month, the doll grew more disturbing. Guests who visited the family often felt uneasy. Some whispered, "That doll, it's staring at me. Those eyes, they're alive." One aunt swore she saw the doll move from one corner of the room to the center during the night. A cousin claimed he heard it whisper a single word, "Mama." The family's nights became a living nightmare. Doors creaked open on their own. Lights flickered and died. Tiny footsteps echoed across the wooden floorboards when no child was in the house. The girl's toys were mysteriously rearranged, her ball missing one day, her books stacked differently the next. Every suspicion pointed back to the doll. Yet when confronted, it always sat perfectly still, its glass eyes shimmering with a faint, sinister smile. The family could bear it no longer. In 1938, they made a painful decision. They carried the doll to Menenji Temple in Hokkaido and handed it to the monks. The monks placed it inside a glass case, but even there, the hair continued to grow. Skeptical at first, the monks themselves trimmed the doll's hair. And sure enough, weeks later, it grew back again. There was no denying it. Something inside that doll was alive. Years later, scientists were allowed to examine the doll. Samples of its hair were taken to a laboratory. What they discovered was horrifying. These were not synthetic fibers. They were real human hair. And DNA tests revealed something chilling. The hair belonged to a young child, as if the spirit of little Okiku had fused with her doll. To this day, the Okiku doll remains inside Menenji Temple, encased in glass. Thousands of visitors come every year. Many claim that when you stare too long into its black eyes, it blinks. Some say they've seen its lips move, as if forming words. Others have heard faint giggles, echoing in the temple corridors at night. Even now, the monks trim its hair every few months, because if they don't, it grows down past its shoulders, curling toward its mouth. But the curse doesn't stop there. Visitors who mock the doll or speak ill of it often face tragedy soon after. Some report sudden car accidents on their way home. Others suffer strange illnesses or misfortunes. And in some cases, even death. The monks believe Okiku's soul has never found peace, that she still wanders, trapped within the doll, searching endlessly for her mother. The story of the Okiku doll is not just folklore, it is history. The doll is real. It sits inside Menenji Temple to this very day. And even now, its hair continues to grow. When you stand before it, you feel it, as if it's breathing, as if it's watching. Some memories never die, some toys are never lifeless, and some spirits can never be freed. The year was 1970. In an American city, a nursing student named Donna was celebrating her 24th birthday. Her mother gave her a gift, a large, soft rag doll. It was a typical Raggedy Ann type doll with bright red yarn hair, big round eyes, and a stitched smile. Donna placed it on her bed right beside her pillow. At first, everything seemed completely normal, but within days, the doll became the darkest part of her life. Donna and her roommate Angie were usually busy with classes and long hospital shifts. When they came home, they would often notice the doll wasn't where they had left it. Sometimes it sat upright on the bed. Sometimes it was slouched on the couch. Other times it was found in the kitchen corner. At first, they thought maybe one of them had moved it by mistake, but soon they realized neither of them had touched it. One day, Donna left it sitting neatly on her bed. When she returned, the doll was on the floor, kneeling as if in prayer. That was the moment fear began creeping into their hearts. Weeks later, things escalated. Small slips of parchment paper began appearing around the apartment, with messages scrawled in a child's handwriting. "Help us. Help Lou." The strange part? Neither Donna nor Angie owned that kind of paper, or pencils that matched the writing. Then one night, Donna noticed red stains on the doll's hands, stains that looked disturbingly like blood. Moments later, the stains vanished into thin air. This was no longer a prank. It was a sign. Something sinister was at work. Terrified, Donna and Angie consulted a medium. During the seance, the medium claimed to contact the spirit of a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins, who once lived on the same land where their apartment stood. "She likes you," the medium explained. "She just wants to stay here with you." Moved by pity, Donna and Angie allowed the so-called spirit to remain. That single act of kindness was their biggest mistake. Donna and Angie's close friend Lou despised the doll. He often warned, "This thing isn't good. You need to get rid of it." One night, Lou had a terrifying dream. The doll crawled onto his chest and began choking him. He woke up gasping, only to find fresh scratch marks across his neck. Days later, Lou and Angie heard noises in Donna's room. When Lou entered, the doll lay motionless on the floor. As he leaned closer, deep claw-like scratches suddenly appeared on his chest. 3 vertical, 4 horizontal, as though ripped by unseen claws. The wounds healed the very next day, but the message was clear. The doll wasn't just moving, it was attacking. Out of desperation, Donna contacted her local church. The priest quickly referred the case to famed paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. After examining the doll in the apartment, the Warrens were firm. This is no child's spirit. This is something inhuman, a demonic force. The doll, they explained, was merely a vessel, a tool for the entity to gain trust and eventually complete possession. The Warrens performed a blessing of the apartment. Then they took the doll away for safekeeping. But the nightmare had only just begun. On the way back to their home, the Warrens experienced near-fatal car troubles. The brakes failed, the steering locked, the engine stalled repeatedly. Only after Ed sprinkled holy water did the car finally calm down. The doll's true menace was only beginning to unfold. At the Warrens Occult Museum, the doll was sealed inside a locked wooden case. A bold warning was written on it. Warning, positively, do not open. Yet reports of strange occurrences continued. Visitors swore they saw the doll's head tilt, its eyes shift, its smile stretch. One young couple mocked the case, daring each other to open it. Later that day, their motorcycle crashed violently. The man died instantly. The woman was left in a coma for months. Another priest tapped on the glass and scoffed, "You're just a doll. You can't hurt anyone." On his drive home, his car spun out of control in a horrific accident. Coincidence? Or a curse at work? To this day, Annabelle remains locked inside her case at the Warrens Museum, though the museum is now closed after their deaths. Priests still bless the case regularly. One chilling warning is always repeated. If Annabelle is ever freed, the destruction she causes could be unimaginable. Annabelle is not just a story. She is a reality. A doll that continues to radiate darkness and terror, even behind sealed glass. Some still dismiss her as nothing more than cloth and stuffing, but those who've crossed her path know she is far more. She is not a toy. She is the Queen of Fear.